This is by far, to me, the best and worst time of year to live in New England. The weather's getting better. It's 54 degrees today. It's absolutely gorgeous outside considering the weather we had, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 months. But it, can't make up its mind. And if you look at the forecast, it's 30 one day, 50 the next day. And these are the types of things that make me want to move to Orlando because everyone gets sick during this time of year, too. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah. I've been sick on and off. It's like 1 week sick, 1 week better. Every year around this time when it's the temperature changes that really do hit me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're right, like it'll be 30, 50, 30, 50. There was snow and then it was 56 and then it's crazy back and forth. I love the temperature in Florida, how it never changes.
These are the reasons why I continuously tell my wife we need to go to Florida, for good, not just to, go to Disney once or twice a year. This doesn't get, it's the same thing every year. You get spring fever kicks in and then it's cold again. And then spring fever kicks in and then it's cold again. And then maybe by the middle of May, you're starting to stabilize. Although I did go to a Red Sox game last year in the first week of May, and it was like the coldest weather I've ever had at a Red Sox game. It was miserable. Also on that note, the Red Sox start the season on Thursday in baseball in general, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I've been following all preseason. I went to, in April, I went to a Paw Sox game. It was a doubleheader. I could not stay. It got so cold. It's just so strange to watch POVs from in the parks and it's 66 and people dress the way that I dress when it's 33 out.
Yeah.
I would be so happy if it was 66 right now. It would be beautiful. That's almost the perfect temperature.
Yeah, and also, on a side note, another good reason to move to Florida, the Red Sox play spring training at JetBlue Park.
Right,
and
Fenway South of JetBlue Park.
I could be down there in March, loving weather, get all the baseball I want in, and then just watch the rest of it on TV.
At Orlando, well, not Orlando, I guess. At Disney World, the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I think it's their last one this year, though.
Yeah, they need to pick up a new one because when you stay on property, you always get a free voucher for one event at the Wide World of Sports. You could use that to go see Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
Now that's not an option anymore.
Either way, Orlando's better. Love New England, but Orlando's better. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the QuickDisTakes podcast. Today, we got a few things to talk about. I want to get right into because there's a lot of big news this week. Actually, one really big news story that's going to probably take a little while to discuss. So let's go right into it. And obviously, most of you know Disney officially has acquired Fox and a lot of things with it. So I'll start off by getting your thoughts on this, Dan.
What people don't realize is just both what they're getting and what they're not getting. The big thing that people don't realize that they're getting is literally decades and decades of just backlog and catalogs and all of the money that's worth in the sense of streaming property. Disney is now the majority shareholder of Hulu. They already own 30%. Fox owned 30%. Now they own 60. There's a chance that they might buy up the remaining 40. And I kind of see them going forward with offering kind of like HBO is now. If anyone has Hulu already, you can get Hulu and you can add on HBO and you get all the HBO options, or you can add on other things like that. That Disney Plus will be like that in Hulu.
Yeah, kind of. And Amazon does that as well with their service.
And what they're not getting is Fox Sports, Fox News, Fox, just the regular television channel, which is now the new Fox, the new slimmer Fox, is now basically all of the Fox television channels themselves bundled together as a singular company.
Yep.
In terms of the parks, they gain full ownership of Pandora. That's the probably biggest difference in terms of like merchandise.
That's certainly good. I think for the parks, it's kind of the big thing we want to, touch upon here. And with the properties they are acquiring here, the IPs, things like Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, The Simpsons, those are kind of most likely not going to be seen in a Disney theme park. I'm sorry, but maybe Aliens, maybe Predator, maybe most likely X-Men. They're gonna get Deadpool. I'm not quite sure he'll make his way in there, but those Fantastic Four, those are probably the most important things as fans that we take away from this deal. And it's interesting to me to think about if any of these are going to make their way into the park. I think personally, at some point or other, aliens will make their way in. I don't know what it's a show.
What is your basis for this? Just because Michael Eisner wanted it previously?
That's part of it, and I feel like it does fit. If you do it, you can do kind of a PG version of it to make it kind of work. They did it with a Great Movie Ride.
Okay.
That was a cool part of that ride, and probably my most favorite part of that ride, maybe other than the Wizard of Oz. And at some point, this is kind of like a hot take, at some point the Tower of Terror is getting rethemed. I know people don't want to digest it, but I can't help but think to myself, how cool would it be if they took aliens and they put it in the Tower of Terror? So maybe the storyline is you're going through and these aliens are coming after you and you got to escape down these elevator shafts, things like that. The sky's the limit with the scenes they could do, especially with that particular Tower of Terror, because that doesn't have just the screens like they do over in Disneyland and I believe in a couple other parks. You actually go into these sets, or at least one on one floor.
Right.
So I think there's potential there. I mean, obviously not a high percentage that happens, but just things like that make me think to myself, this could happen, and I think there's certainly a fan base for it, and I would be shocked if a reboot doesn't come out of this somewhere along the line anyway. So you'll have new films and things like that.
I think they have access to such an amazingly large access of films that you kind of have to wonder what Hollywood Studios is obviously going to be the biggest beneficiary of this in terms of what's going to happen in the parks. And I think it kind of depends on what direction that they want to go, because they've been moving away from this production kind of aesthetic. And if they did an expansion where they kind of focused on that and they retained the Hollywood element that they had and kind of use these IPs, maybe they have like a horror makeup show based on Shape of Water or something, which they now own. Just like Universal has a similar show.
See, that would be interesting to see something like that get in there, but I see what you're saying.
But I don't know if Disney's corporate direction in terms of like being able to sell merchandise is going to want to push that direction, Hollywood Studios, or want to push, we have Star Wars, we have Toy Story, maybe some other Pixar things, and have one or two extremely large properties. And I went through this Fox list, and nothing really stands out to me about like what Disney could feasibly make a land out of something that they acquired so soon. It makes the competition though between Universal and Disney super interesting, because at this point Disney owns Marvel, represented in Universal Orlando. Disney owns The Simpsons, represented in Universal Orlando. I'm sure that they own The Mummy, I would think, right?
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, essentially, you come off of Spider-Man and you purchase a shirt or any kind of souvenir, and Disney's getting a cut. And how long is Universal going to let that go on before they're just kind of like, this isn't even worth it anymore?
My favorite site is in Universal Studios when you're in Marvel Superhero Island and you can buy the Mickey Mouse Marvel superhero pops. You can buy Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Marvel pops in Universal Studios, and it just it shows like how the tendrils of this company
it's almost like they're giving up. They're like, we're just gonna we'll sell this and get a little bit of a cut, and just take our loss on the other end, just to make a sale. Now, my opinion on the Universal thing too is that I don't think Marvel's represented well there. I like the Spider-Man attraction; it's cool, but they got the cheesy kind of comic book look going that
it's 90s Saturday cartoon.
Yeah, it doesn't translate that well.
For sure.
Islands of Adventure is a mess, and that's another story for another time. But the other thing you bring up, Universal, that I've heard, and it makes a lot of sense, is that they could use this to barter or leverage Universal into maybe making it some kind of a trade where, you guys take aliens or you guys take Deadpool or something that we're not ever going to represent in our parks, and give us back the full licensing rights to Marvel for our parks, east of the Mississippi. Because let's face it, how much longer is Disney going to go without getting these types of lands in the Orlando resort? I mean, Disneyland's going to have Marvel. They're working on it, I believe, over in, is it Tokyo Disney's getting it as well, I believe? And Paris is getting it.
Paris is
getting a hotel and a land, I believe.
Hong Kong Disney is getting it in 2023.
Yeah, actually, they have a ride opening soon with Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're going to actually talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
But to my point, it's almost like they're already poking at the bears. Here comes Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That's going to be insanely popular. There's no way around it. And then, what's next before they finally just can't take it anymore? And then the Spider-Man ride's going to open in DCA. Probably going to be awesome. And they're going to want to, they're going to want to clone. Yeah, so this could mean a lot for that. Because like we just said, I don't know if they're going to want to tap into some of these IPs in the park because they're very adult-oriented type things.
I mean, they will. I think the problem that Disney's perpetually faced has been trying to attract that kind of teenage PG-13 crowd, which is kind of built in for superheroes. That's why superheroes are great. You attract the 6-year-old and you attract
it's so universal. Not to use the word universal with Disney, but it works out so perfectly.
But I think that Universal is trying to drag on as long as they can. Disney kind of has fortunately hit this like string of unexpected success with their movies where now they have Black Panther that they can utilize in Epcot. I think at some point might show up, or even Animal Kingdom in the Africa segment, which I think is less likely, but they have the option.
Yeah, and it seems like it's a no-brainer to get that in there somewhere in one of the parks.
It was long rumored for a long time that we were going to get it in maybe the Wonders of Life in Epcot, and something that's gone now, obviously, but the idea was definitely floating around. They have access to Doctor Strange, which also outperformed the expectations. So, I mean, they kind of have a couple of characters that they can burn through for a while, but obviously at some point, the popularity and success of these characters and their attractions at other Disney parks is just going to leave the average park as confused about why at this one Disney park in Florida, I can't ride a Marvel ride. I have to go to Universal to ride Marvel rides.
Oh, yeah, or I can ride a specific Marvel ride because they can't build Spider-Man, who is one of the bigger characters that Marvel, represents Marvel. Guardians of the Galaxy is great and all. The movies are popular. I'm sure the third movie will be very popular. But in the end, you think Marvel, you're thinking Spider-Man, you're thinking The Incredible Hulk. The two rides Universal has over there, and the two rides, I think Universal did a great job with Spider-Man. I just recently rode that ride again, and 20 years later, it's still pretty cool ride and all that stuff. I'm not taking anything away from them, but for both parks' sake, I think it's just it's time to kind of just clear that up and let's move on and let everyone do with what they've got. With that said, we'll see what happens. I mean, Universal might want to just give them a hard time to give them a hard time. I don't really know what the relationship is. I mean, obviously they're in competition, but what the relationship is there as far as...
I mean, I can definitely see Disney making some kind of deal where they look at properties that they probably have no real interest in, that they're never going to touch. So, like, say you bundle all the Fox animation, The Simpsons, Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, and the access to all the other ones that they own, that they used to make, Futurama, etc. You bundle all of those, you say, here, we give you that. We can build Marvel in our parks, and they build Nintendo Land, wherever they end up building over there, to replace Marvel Superhero Island. But I mean, really, they're only losing the ability to have this one land.
Yeah, and what's good about that too, you got me thinking when you're saying it, is that now you can almost coexist, where you're competition, but you're not. In other words, you'll take more of the adult stuff. We're fine, have that market, and there's going to be a market. I mean, you could do with Family Guy the same. You could build Quahog the same way you build Springfield. It's gonna be popular. I love Family Guy. A lot of people love Family Guy. Tons of people love Family Guy. That property alone just sticks out in my mind. Aliens, once again, seems like it belongs somewhere in a theme park. Maybe not a Disney theme park. Predator, things like that. I can see Universal making rides out of these attractions or shows
Or Halloween Horror Nights.
Halloween Horror Nights is, yeah.
You're right. There's always going to be a market. I mean, Mickey's Not So Scared is sold out every year, and so is Halloween Horror Nights. You know what I mean? They both can do well.
Yeah, they coexist with each other. One night, Mom and Dad are going to Horror Nights. The next night, the family's going over to Mickey's Not So Scary. I think they almost have you know, an understanding between the two to some degree, and they each kind of play to their demographic. But it'll be interesting to see what Disney does with that, and whether or not they do decide to incorporate any of that stuff in their parks. And it makes you think. I doubt this is going to happen. But it's an interesting thought. Do you think Disney would ever, because they've gotten so much third-party branding now, venture out in a different way? Say, like the way Paramount did, and maybe they start doing these Six Flags style parks around the country using these types of properties, and maybe not slapping the Disney label. Maybe it's Fox's Kings Island, or I'm not saying they're going to buy Kings Island, but you know what I'm saying. It's Fox's, whatever.
Under the current management, I would say no.
Yeah.
I would say it's definitely a possibility, but they just have this opposition to this idea because of the failure of their Disney Quest model. And if you go back to the 90s, when they were basically going through a similar thing, they were building multiple new parks at the same time, and they were going through this idea of like, well, we can do a spin-off, we can do these giant, amazing Disney Quest arcades in Chicago and other major locations. And there was going to be other Disney-branded experiences as well beyond Disney Quest once Disney Quest got rolling. But of course, after Chicago, Disney Quest never got a third location.
No.
And then with all the money that they're spending and building all these parks, just like right now, they're building tons of additions to all of these parks and all of these lands. I don't think that they were also going to then want to drop the money on spreading out the market of people who want to go and visit a Disney experience.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Just kind of a thought there with that, but they're not going to leave them dormant. I mean, obviously, they're going to make movies and a ton of money that way, and I'm sure, we're going to get another slate of X-Men movies, and I don't mean to sound not so excited about that, but I'm not so excited about that. And maybe someone can get Fantastic Four right for once, because God knows they've tried a few incarnations of that, and it's been absolutely horrible. Alien reboot is probably more than welcome. Avatar makes a ton of sense, and that almost, to me, secures the idea, especially if this next one does well, and I think it most likely will, because Cameron knows how to make movies.
Yeah.
We'll get an expansion to Pandora. Pandora almost needs an expansion in a sense. I know it just opened.
I agree.
But you walk in, and I always think to myself, this is beautiful, and people talk about it like it's, and say it's beautiful, and I agree with all that, but at the same time, it just feels very, like you walk in, and you have this whole area in front of you. It doesn't feel like three-dimensional, or it doesn't feel like an entire land. It just feels like you look at a backdrop, and there's the mountains, and there's your two attractions, and to the right you get your restaurant, a place to buy a couple of treats, and some souvenirs, and you're out of there. It doesn't have a whole land feel to it, like when you walk into Frontierland or any other land in Disney for the most part. So they definitely got to work on that, and I think they have that, in the works at some point.
I believe if you look at the shape of Pandora, it's kind of basically a U with a connecting line. And the middle is just sort of like all little interesting, like but kids sort of things. It's where the drumming area is, and there's
it's
lots
cool.
of little trails and things light up, and there's interactive bits.
I don't want to take anything away from it, but I'm just saying.
But you're right. The land doesn't feel very deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for earlier.
If off that you had another section, I don't think for this they have an area dedicated already to expand Pandora out.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard much of anything about a third ride though. I know another dining experience, but I mean even with how immersive and beautiful and interesting the land is, just expanding it out to have more area to walk around, especially with how many people want to get into Pandora, I think will just make it feel much better, even if there's not a third attraction.
Yeah, but you wonder too, if they expand, they're most likely going to have a third attraction, I would guess. And then you wonder how much, I mean, this deal has been looming. They knew it was coming. They've obviously worked with James Cameron. Does the theme park play into the movies at all? Do they say, let's try to incorporate something into the storyline or something into these movies where we can kind of parlay that into an attraction, because we're going to need another big one. I mean, if you're going to build another one, it's got to be better than Flight of Passage, although it's hard to believe that can happen at this point, because I love that ride. It's beautiful. But you're always trying to outdo yourself, so...
Let me present it like this is my theory. Okay. So Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is your ultimate product. That Pandora was always basically your beta. Was always the beta for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. We know Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is going to sort of have this evolving story that changes. What if Pandora does the same thing? We know that Pandora needs a lot of cleaning and maintenance. If you look at any recent things going on right now, they've been doing maintenance to refill the glow-in-the-dark sections and the sidewalks over there. So it's going to need that kind of work anyways in Pandora. And I think their film schedule is very aggressive. I think they're scheduled to make...
You're right about that. I've read
5
about it.
films.
Yeah, it's crazy, kind of, if you think about it, but...
In the next 5 or 6 years for Pandora.
Like if one flops, you wonder what's going to happen with that.
Right. I think they're going to see how the second one does. Like you said. And then based upon that, maybe they make these 5 films in 5 or 6 years, which sounds crazy to me regardless of how well the second film does. But I can definitely see as they do this, that as they do their yearly maintenance in Pandora, they kind of change it to the story as the story evolves and working close together. And I'm excited for that because usually I think Disney kind of misses the punch because they don't know what's exactly going to be popular and they end up putting things in parks a few years after the peak period. So if you can develop this synergy of having this cycle of changing land, changing movies, and evolving storylines, that sounds incredible if you can manage it. But so are they elevating Pandora and Avatar as a franchise generally to like the status they're trying to up there with like Star Wars, Pandora, Marvel, you know what I mean? Where you have at least one film a year and then you can have this land that lives with the films as you have this like new storytelling film.
Yes, which is cool.
It is cool.
But it's risky.
It's risky, yes.
And you know Marvel is going to perform one way or the other. I mean, you can make a bad Marvel movie and they have made a few and people are going to go to them. I don't know how much wiggle room you have on Avatar right now. Maybe if you can pop out 2 and 3 and those are good, you can get away with the mediocre 4. I don't know. I think you're right to what speaking to what you just said, but I also think they knee-jerk reacted to Harry Potter, and before they had their hands on Star Wars, they just looked around. They were like Pandora, because one, the Marvel situation, even though they had Marvel, that situation was going on in Universal, and they knew they couldn't do a whole lot there. 2, Star Wars was in the works, but not a guarantee. And 3, Avatar seemed like the next best option, I guess. And here we are. But the land's beautiful, and I think no matter how popular or unpopular the brand is, if you do it right in the parks and you put a ride out like Flight of Passage, which is absolutely awesome, people will appreciate it overall. I mean, it's not Dinoland USA, so There's that.
But speaking of making okay second and third films and the fourth one being a flop, you've reminded me of maybe another slightly important property that they picked up, the Ice Age film franchise.
Oh, boy. See, that I could see coming into the park somehow, though. I mean, if Disney takes a shot at making their own, making one while now that they own it, which I would imagine would happen, although I think they're going to keep a third. I heard they're going to keep a third animation studio, what it is. So I don't think you'll see the castle in front of the opening of an Ice Age movie. Mm-hmm. Or whether or not they'll even go that route. Who knows?
Re-themed Dinoland USA to
I mean, re-themed Dinoland USA to anything, and I think most of us will be happy. But we'll see what happens. And I could sit here and talk about this all day, but we got more news, so we got to turn on and go to the next thing here. And real quick, just want to talk about Toy Story 4 trailer came out. What do you think about it?
I wasn't anticipating being excited, but I am excited about the film after watching the trailer. I think it does a really good job of making me not feel like this is the fourth film in a franchise. And despite the fact that I'm told that this will be the last film, which, who knows in 10 years, 15 years, whatever. This is the last film.
Something tells me it's not, but I feel like they even said that about 3 there for a little while, and then
it
like
looks,
6 months later it comes, announcement for this one. But
I look at this film, I'm like, they really learned lessons from Thor Ragnarok about how you don't need to connect everything together when you have a property. You can just set about to make a fun movie with these characters. And that's what's important, making a fun movie.
Yeah. And I mean, how many times can you? I mean, toys are alive. Toys get lost. Toy returns to owner. It looks like Looks like some of that's still going on here.
Yeah.
However, it looks like there are a couple of storylines that are a little more interesting here and a little more contemporary, I guess is the way to put them. Well, one you get, obviously, another female character being empowered because it looks like Bo Peep is going to be kind of a, powerful, kind of cool character in this one. Taking a little bit of a different angle on her. That's what I get out of the trailer anyway.
Right.
There's obviously going to be some type of romantic thing going on there with Woody and Bo Peep, which has always kind of been hinted at the other movies. And now you have Sporky, who seems to be tackling kind of the transgender type identity thing going on, which is a thing, obviously, that's an issue in current society and things like that. So that'll be interesting to see how Pixar kind of gets that in there and gets their message across there. But all that stuff should be interesting and play to a crowd where my 6-year-old can watch it and just take away the elements she takes away from it, and people like us, older people can get the kind of, underlying themes and things like that. So that always usually makes a pretty good movie.
I think that's the reason that Toy Story 3 was such a big hit.
Yeah, it was good. I like that one.
It checked boxes for so many people. We've talked last week or previous week about being the correct age for films, and I was about to go to college when Toy Story 3 came out, and Andy was going to college. And I was a child watching the original Toy Story. That was a tearjerker. So I don't know what they're going to build on from that in Toy Story 4, but I will tell you that the clip in the trailer of them being under the car talking Bo Peep and Woody, that I was impressed watching Frozen 2 when she was at the water. That was the most visually impressive to me. Besides them being toys there, everything else looked like just real.
It did. It looked, and it had like very good, like that scene you're talking about, the cinematography, everything about that scene just had a very real feeling to it. So it's kind of growing with its audience, I guess is the way to put that. It seems like it's going to have a more mature tone to it. I'm sure it'll be fine to bring a kid and all that good stuff, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, look forward to that one coming out in a few more months, and that'll be probably a big one for Disney, I'm sure. Tons of people are going to go see that.
Almost guaranteed. $1 billion film.
I would say. One last thing for news. Minor news, especially for us domestic park goers, but Ant-Man and the Wasp attraction opening in Hong Kong. You had actually brought this up to me, Dan, and I knew it, but kind of forgotten about it. Just a quick little opinion on that.
It looks good to me. I'm on a Hong Kong Disney kick right now, personally. I'm looking at maybe going in 2022.
Oh, okay.
2-day pass, Hong Kong Disney, $88 United States dollars. That's all I'm saying. 2-day pass, $88.
My niece actually just went to Disneyland Paris. I was actually just talking to her a little bit before the podcast here. $11 a month for an annual pass in Disneyland Paris.
That's insane.
I know. And a channel I like to watch, Defunctland. I'm not sure if you've seen any videos.
I'd watch.
They just did a Hong Kong episode that ends season 2. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's been an up and down battle with Hong Kong Disneyland for Disney. Eisner.
Can I tell you that I was watching this video about 2 hours ago?
Oh, okay. So Eisner, to be real quick about it, was being Eisner with his budgeting and all that stuff at the park, and that park has been up and down ever since. I'm confident, as everybody else is, I'm sure, that they'll stabilize that park at some point. But I mean, they put to save money on the castle, they put a smaller version. They put a replica version of Sleeping Beauty's castle in a park that was built in the 2000s, and silly things like that. The attractions were limited, so on and so forth. But they got expansion coming, and they're gonna fix this. But back to Ant-Man and the Wasp real quick. It looks basically like a Buzz Lightyear clone.
Right. It's in the
with
spot.
an Ant-Man theme.
It was in the spot of Buzz Lightyear's. I believe theirs is called Astro Blasters in Hong Kong.
So is it is it a reskin?
It's been down since 2017. I think it was extensively redone. It was done for about 2 years.
So like kind of like a Frozen deal to some degree.
It is still a shooter where you compete with other people. It's called Ant-Man and the Wasp Nano Battle.
Okay.
And so you shrink down, following the plot. I haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, but following just Ant-Man, you shrink down to a very small level. I'm sure there's going to be set pieces that are extremely large. I don't know if you go to the nano dimension, I think is what it's called in the film, where you basically like exist outside of reality. It's strange, but it looks exciting. It looks cool. I think Disney needs to update their shooter technology for sure, because you have an entirely screen-based ride over at Hollywood Studios, which in the next couple of years is going to feel really outdated. It doesn't yet, but at some point it's absolutely going to hit a wall because it's 100% screen-based. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then you have Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin in Magic Kingdom, which needs an overhaul so badly. There's not a lot of categories where I'd say Universal is winning, but Men in Black is the best shooter ride in the Orlando amusement park game.
It functions well for the most part, and Toy Story Mania is good,
Right.
but it's screen based, and so there's that. But if you want to shoot into practical sets, you're right. Men in Black is by far and away. Buzz Lightyear, half the time I don't even go on that ride anymore. And I find that it's always just blah when I do. So if Ant-Man and the Wasp takes off there, I don't know if that's a property they can plug into the Orlando park or not.
I'm not sure.
Probably not.
But maybe
I don't know.
Maybe some form comes to DCA.
Well, that I can see because they got the whole thing going on over there and all that stuff. But anyway, we're gonna cut the news short here. Well, not short, but we're gonna cut the topic of the news because we've been talking about it for quite some time. Last week, in the cold opening, I had brought up kind of funny things that Disney has branded and that people own or have seen, obviously for sale. And so Dan has brought some stuff. Not necessarily funny things, but things that he has picked up over the years that are kind of interesting. And we are going to talk about those for a little bit. And he's got if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to actually see. He's going to kind of give us a little show and tell here.
So my first thing is that I Disney bounded this episode.
And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's essentially a Disney cosplay.
Right. Disney parks don't allow adults over a certain age to dress up fully in costume. So there's a whole culture that's arisen, especially with modern technology on Instagram and Facebook and
Twitter, any social media.
Yes, social media was the word I was looking for. So a huge movement about dressing inspired by characters. So I'm inspired by Dipper Pines from the Disney property Gravity Falls, multi-Emmy award-winning, multi-Annie award-winning. This hat is official Disney product, so it costs $20-something or somewhat. But otherwise, I just have a red shirt, and I bought this sleeveless sweatshirt from Goodwill for about $4. At Goodwill, you can definitely pick up crazy random Disney things. At some point in a future episode, I'll bring in I have a Tokyo Disney Sea 10th anniversary piece that I just found for like $2 at Goodwill. And I collect records, so I've especially over the years liked to pick up a lot of Disney records when I'm at Goodwill. I have a lot of ones from the 60s of soundtracks for Pinocchio, for Dumbo, holiday Christmas songs.
Do you want me to hold those up?
Yeah, sure.
So this is what Dan was showing you here. We got the Christmas one here.
Right, that's that one's from the 80s. This one's interesting to me because it interchanges between like Chip and Dale and Donald Duck singing something, and then Molly Ringwald sings a song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then
you got Dumbo.
These are just movie soundtracks from the 1960s that they're still in great shape. These are originals from the 60s.
And what do you pay generally for something like this?
Depending on where you find them, in actual record stores, something like this might be like $5 if you get it in any kind of Goodwill. I keep saying Goodwill, whatever's local to you. We have Savers here, but that's not countrywide. I can find them sometimes for $2 or below, but the highest I've ever seen them is like $5. These are the cooler ones, though, personally, especially this last one I'm going to show you, but this one came out originally with Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, and besides having the record, is also a full color illustrated book that also goes to the story of Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Oh, that's cool.
And then my personal favorite, Walt Disney Presents It's a Small World. Sorry, Walt Disney Presents It's a Small World. This is
That's not just one record of the song going over and over and over and over again, is it?
It has a narrator.
I'm gonna take that as a yes.
Close. It's pretty close to that. You have a narrator that tells you, now you're passing through Germany, and it describes the scene of the dolls, essentially.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then it has the song in that language. Yeah.
It's like the original YouTube ride-through.
Right, the original ride-through.
Done on record.
And then it has a full-on color book as well. I've seen these for several different dark rides. Posted on the internet, a couple of them going along on Reddit. They still make similar records to these. I know that
That's pretty cool, though.
the pins have sort of been coming into fashion with records on them for some reason, but not the records themselves. They still make things like this. I think you gave it to me, actually, the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, I have that as well. Those are cool.
Yeah, the Haunted Mansion full color book is similar to that, and then it comes with a CD that plays the music.
There's a Pirates one as well. I haven't picked up. I've seen it somewhere. Why I didn't pick it up, I don't know, because usually I grab that right away, but I kind of shrugged it off. But I love there's not much to it, but the Haunted Mansion one's just cool. Like, it has the soundtrack, and
For sure.
there's, just some nice, illustrations are all nice and all that good stuff, so those are worth picking up if you're, a real Disney nerd. But it's interesting to see those, because they're coming from different ages and everything, and how people just get rid of those. You think, I know people don't all love Disney like we do and all that kind of stuff, but you would think people, when you go and throw something away, you look at that and go, this might be something I want to hang on to. It's funny to see that people just get rid of things like that, toss them out.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I have it's sort of like a porcelain, it's Mickey-shaped porcelain holder for jewelry or whatever from Tokyo Disney Sea, and I imagine buying this piece of porcelain from Tokyo Disney Sea for the 10th anniversary probably cost a pretty penny, but I bought it from Savers.
Yeah, that's just cool. Absolutely cool. Anyway, moving from that, and thanks for sharing that, Dan. That's really cool, and we'll do more of that stuff as we go along, and we'll be keeping an eye out for it and picking some stuff up as we go, doing these shows and maybe making some videos on it, because we just love any of that stuff. We just kind of geek out on, so it's cool to pick it up, especially when you can get it for a good price. But we're going to move along now to our tweaks for the 50th anniversary, and this week it's my turn. So I talked about this with Dan before the show started. I want to tweak the final scene. Specifically, I want to tweak Carousel Progress, but specifically, and I think everyone will agree with me, the final scene, and bring this thing up to date. Now, the question is, if you tweak the final scene, do you need to tweak the other scenes to sort of carry the story? Like, is it too much of a jump to go from the second to last scene to the final scene if you bring the final scene, say, obviously current, or even a little bit, past where we are?
I think the question is do you update the final scene to be modern, or do you make it another scene in the 20th century as you show American families' journey through the 20th century? Currently, you have turn of the century, 1920s, 1940s, and then you're right, there's a big jump. Originally, it was around another 20-year jump.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at this point, now we're going to jump from 1940 to, approximately 2020 when it finishes. Maybe it makes more sense to have an earlier time period.
Yeah, you could. I mean, that's one way to look at it. And I was thinking, I'd like to see it go current. I think overall, or even maybe with a little bit of what we can expect to come up. But I think if we do that, we're gonna have to maybe push the turn of the century stuff up a little bit, and each scene accordingly, or maybe the ride is a little bit longer, or I should say the show is a little bit longer,
okay.
And each scene to kind of add a little to each scene to catch each scene up to the other scene so that the gaps are closed a bit more overall in the ride. Or I'm sorry, I keep saying ride, the show.
The loading area, I mean, I don't know what the inner mechanisms look like, but as far as seating goes, you still have the loading area where the curtain comes up and it just tells you Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress has 6,000 stage shows.
Seems like a waste, right? Though, like, could you put a scene there?
I don't know. Maybe that's where the mechanism to turn everything is held.
I always assumed that was the case where the scenes would turn in and out. But then again, can that even be the case if the theater's rotating? Yeah, so probably is where. So that might be an issue. And I don't know how much of an overhaul they would really want to do about this. Rumor has it they are thinking about doing this, by the way.
I've heard strongly hinted as one of their actual real tweaks for the 50th anniversary.
So how do you, if you bring it up to date too, the other thing is, how do you ignore the 80s and 90s? For like where that brought us, where that was to where we are today. Like there's a big disconnect there if you don't acknowledge what kind of went on. Like how it was almost like a technology boom.
Exactly.
Especially for home, personal media technology, things like that. I mean, the home computer and so on and so forth.
I mean, I would argue, I think most people would agree that there's a lot more in change of technology from your final current scene before the last scene, the 1940s, to now or to the current one.
That's the problem with it, too.
Than there is from the first scene to the 1940s. I mean, the complete computers were just being invented for the first time with no real actual practical use during that scene in the 1940s, and here we have the modern technological revolution. So that's why, to me, you either have to add in another scene, or if that's not practical, maybe you have to set the final scene in the 80s or something,
or fill the gaps. Like I said, maybe you cover 20, 30, 40 years per scene in some way, shape, or form. To now, how many we're looking at? It's 4 scenes, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So now you can cover 120 years and 30 years of pop, or 160, whatever Disney sees fit, and kind of give us more. Because a lot of it has to do with what he's telling you. I mean, there obviously are things on the stage that they show you, and all that's well and good, but the narration's key. So if you kind of keep the set, to the point where it covers a general amount of time, maybe the 2 side sets that turn in and out can kind of cover some different things there. And
that was my thought about it.
Yeah, he can kind of keep the narration flowing, and we can go from the turn of the century, 1940, 1980, 2020, for example. Yeah, something like that.
If you built, I would say I don't know why those screens are there, to be honest with you. Maybe just the lighting so you don't see the scene rotate. But the circular screens that are over the 2 side pieces on each.
Yes.
I would hope when you redo it, you can get rid of that somehow. But maybe that entire set piece rotates and the central piece doesn't change, but the side pieces change and can kind of indicate that you went from generic 1940s to generic 1950s, for example, in your idea.
Yeah.
Somehow.
There's got to be. I mean, they could do something. Or maybe I can't believe I'm about to say this, but maybe you can work some kind of screen technology in the backgrounds on this thing too. Don't want to see him go crazy with this by any stretch of the imagination, but can projection overlays change some of the appliances behind them?
To remember, March 25th, 2019 is the date that Tim LeBeau called for the addition of screens to rides in Magic Kingdom.
Well, I'm just saying something like that, but obviously you can't spend too much time on each scene either, because the theater's got to rotate, you got to get the crowds in, yada yada. And I think that it's kind of a snoozer attraction right now overall. It draws, I love it. Right. Any nerd basically loves it. But if you spruce it up a little bit, I think you might get some crowds in there again. And so you got to keep that in mind. So it does have to move along, but they got to come up with some kind of clever way to do this, because I don't want to see the idea go away. The idea needs to stay. Oh. It's classic Disney.
They have to be clever with this for sure. Their physical limitations are extreme. So
yes, very.
Imagineers are really going to have to earn the imagination part of their time.
Well, here's another thing kind of just popped in my head, is if that scene, the beginning opening curtain scene, is for the rotating sides scenes and all that stuff. Maybe we just get rid of the rotating side scenes and expand the stages, a different way. Use the stage in a different way on those two sides, and then add a fifth scene into that area. If it's an open area, I mean, I don't know what's behind there, obviously.
Well, let me present to you how you could add in more scenes, but I'm not sure how this would affect the crowd levels. This would be complicated, though.
I already think I got an idea what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
This is based upon from Tokyo Disney. They have a similar ride that is no longer there that told the history of Japan essentially and opening up to the West. But theirs was opposite. You were on a central circular platform that rotated all the seating, and then the stage sets were the outside.
Okay.
And did not move. Just moving from the smaller circle to the bigger circle, you could fit in more, but I don't know how that's going to affect crowd size. And how many people you can handle per hour. Maybe they're not super concerned about that because it's the people mover.
Yeah.
I mean, not the I'm sorry, the
Carousel Progress.
The Carousel Progress, and it's not eating up all these crowds anyways. It's kind of in that circle of, I'm going to the park and I'm going to hit all these things that have no lines, like Carousel Progress and Tiki Room and Country Bear Jamboree. It's for the Disney purist, Disney aficionado, whatever. It's not pulling in all these crowds. So maybe that's okay if they bring down the hourly ride ship, if they make it better to just appeal and make that demographic happier. Yeah. But I mean that's how they could add more scenes, I think, for sure, but it would be complicated.
Yeah. And the more you think about it, the more you have to just go on the assumption that the curtain scene at the beginning is what it's going to be, because if it wasn't, they would have done something with it by now, you would assume. And so we'll see, and hopefully they can they come up with something good, because love that attraction. And I think to celebrate the 50th year of the Magic Kingdom, it'd be cool to have kind of a retrospective, the history of the 20th century and into the 21st century. So we'll see what happens, and I hope that Disney usually comes through. So I think they will on this one. So moving along to overrated, underrated, and our final little segment here. And Dan, this one's on you.
I'm going to do overrated this week, and I'm doing Rockin' Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's the biggest thrill roller coaster in Disney for sure. That's undisputable, but I'm not seeking out the greatest roller coasters when I'm going to Disney, you know what I mean? I'm not looking for something that has 4 loops. I'm looking for something that makes me feel the way that Disney makes me feel. Yep. And nothing about this ride really fits. So you have Hollywood Studios. It's old Hollywood down Sunset Boulevard, and all of the theming is the old Hollywood. Even Tower of Terror, old, decrepit, abandoned Hollywood. Still that same kind of theme. And then you turn around the corner, and then you have Rockin' Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith, which has no connection at all.
No. And it's glossy and looks nice, and
they're playing a show. Yeah, it looks nice. Looks completely out of place. It doesn't look old. They're playing a show in LA. That's the plot. Okay, sure, but they're from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit in the IP. I mean, it's not an IP. It's Aerosmith.
We'll call it an IP for lack of a better term right now.
The ride doesn't fit in its land. The IP doesn't fit in its land and is not owned by Disney and is a very bizarre choice. And the ride is not good enough as a thrill ride for the wait time that it gets. And I'm not looking for giant thrill rides when I go to Disney anyway. So I go on Rockin' Roller Coaster for sure, but I mean, even the theming inside feels kind of lazy. You know what I mean?
It's a total. First of all, I'm gonna say that I agree with you on this. So that'll make this discussion a little bit easier. There is the theming. I 100% agree is lazy. This is going back to what we spoke of earlier today. Eisner going for the teenage demographic. They were looking. I actually watched a video on this. They had approached the Rolling Stones about this.
What did teenagers love?
Where were the Rolling Stones that fit on Hollywood Boulevard? Well, the Rolling Stones apparently wanted some kind of obnoxious amount of money. They didn't say in the video that I seen what that was, but It was a lot.
Teenagers
apparently.
are into hair metal bands from the 1970s.
Well, not well. Well.
Not hair metal.
So
but,
here's the thing.
You know,
This video, I wish I could remember which one who put it out so I could credit them with it, but I watched it, and I think it actually might have been Theme Park History. And so they approached Aerosmith because Aerosmith had the hit with the Get a Grip album, and they had just recently released 9 Lives. They went with their first approach was Rolling Stones. That got shot down. Aerosmith agrees to do it for a good price, and you got Aerosmith's Rock and Roller Coaster. Interesting enough to know, and I can't remember the name of the song. I wish I could. I'll insert it into the video after, over the top of my head, if I can remember, if I find it. But they had a specific song on 9 Lives that in the agreement they said had to be played in the ride, and it still is. It's the one you hear that you don't really know.
Oh, okay.
But all that stuff's interesting how this all comes about. So back to what you were saying, teenagers being interested in 70s hair bands. I'm not sure Aerosmith was quite a hair band, but in the end, they were still kind of popular mid to late 1990s. And did Disney make Armageddon? I believe they did.
I know that there's an Armageddon attraction in France, so that would lend
Well,
itself
yeah,
to that.
there you go. Actually, now that you mention that, I remember that as well. So yes, they did make Armageddon. So then Aerosmith was singing the song on that movie,
Okay, so
main track. So it all kind of made sense, I guess.
An extremely complicated corporate synergy deal.
Which also lends itself to be a perfect overrated topic, because this is how overrated things happen.
Sure.
I mean,
I know that originally they wanted to clone the ride. Currently, it is cloned in Disneyland Paris.
Yes.
With even less theming on the inside of
yeah,
the
it's
ride.
the theming's a little different, but I guess the track layout's all the same.
Yeah, it's getting re-themed to Iron Man, I believe,
Yeah,
pretty soon.
I believe I heard that. Yes.
I know originally they wanted to clone the ride and put it in DCA, and it was going to be Rock and Roller Coaster starring No Doubt. At least No Doubt's from California. Fits slightly better.
Yeah, but think about the long-term elements of that, or implications of that.
I mean, the entire
No
concept
Doubt
of
is
the ride.
No Doubt is not exactly a band that's gonna, 20 years from now, even 10 years from now, be in, popular culture.
Well, I think that's just the flaw with the ride, is that the ride is based upon a very ridiculous premise.
And here's an argument that I've heard is that this could be one of those things where every 7 years or so they could just change out the band, which maybe is better. But can we get away from that for 1 second and talk about the actual ride? So, like, what do you think about the ride? So we just talked about how the studio theme kind of feels eh.
Yep.
I was actually talking to a friend of mine the other day, yesterday, as a matter of fact, about this, and he had kind of the same opinion. And like the overall ride, like when you go into the ride building, it's not Disney quality. It's very.
It's definitely not. I mean, it feels
Paramount's King's Dominion type quality to me.
I mean, let's compare it to Space Mountain, for example. So it's an indoor like dark roller coaster. It has more thrills than Space Mountain for sure, but like it has much less complex theming, even though Space Mountain is entirely supposed to be in space. Like think about like the set pieces with the astronauts.
Oh, it's by far better than Space Mountain. It's by far.
And everything. The only real part that really sticks out to me is the loading area, I think. The pre-show...
The loading area is good. I'll give you that.
The pre-show might have been really good at the time when it came out, but the screen like really dated itself by this point.
What do you mean?
When you go in and they're having their jam session, their practice beforehand.
Aerosmith's not actually there. I know what you're saying. It's absolutely ridiculous.
The screen technology did not age well.
It's terrible.
But
it's just bad.
The load area is nice but small, but it's well themed. And then on the inside, it's just it feels lazy. You have, your flat Hollywood sign. What was the budget for that? Like $300.
I don't even know.
Sign.
It's all black light too.
There's a donut from the big donut in LA, the famous shop. It's
terrible.
It's just a couple of different scenes from LA that's in black lighting, essentially.
But it's funny because you put this on your overrated list, and for good reason, is because because it's a thrill ride and one of the few, it gets away with all this.
Right, for sure. Like you'll see in the summer or other busy periods that the line for this can easily hit like 200 minutes on super crowded days.
Ugh.
And like I would not, like 3 hours Rock and Roller Coaster is
3
ridiculous.
hours. I wouldn't wait more than 30 minutes for that ride.
Right. Just because it's the biggest thrill, that's the flaw. Is just because it's the biggest thrill does not mean it should have the longest wait. Disney offers a lot more than how loud you can scream and how intense a roller coaster is. That's not what Disney is about.
Exactly, and also another aspect of the ride that really kind of does it no justice is the ride capacity. It's basically a standard Six Flags style roller coaster where I don't even know how many guests are going on one of those trains. 12?
More than that.
More than 12?
I would guess
16?
I would guess 16 to 20. But
Okay.
I really don't know.
But not great for by Disney standards. And I've actually when you fast pass it on a busy day, or you go on a single rider line on a busy day, when you get to that load area, you can be still doing some serious kind of relatively waiting to get on that thing. The way it's loaded.
The queue is a little bit disorienting. You're right.
That's true too.
Because you get these separated moments where you have to go through these like multiple pre-show scenes, and then you're like, okay, I walked through the lobby and I walked through the pre-show scene, then I separate out, and then you're dumped out into the back alley behind the recording studio to go. This is the area that I like. It's well themed, but then you might be there for another 20 plus minutes over in that area after you already done all these pre-shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you don't get the typical Disney where they kind of put you in this area and you kind of just get on the ride fairly quickly. It slows down a lot again in that area.
It's a strange choice that breaks the theming, I feel. All right, let's go. And then you have to wait 20 minutes.
Yeah, we're out of here. No, not really.
No.
You could almost see if you got into the limo, or obviously the ride vehicle, it's supposed to be a limo, and there was another screen hanging down, and then that part of it, maybe they come back on like, we gotta get out of here now, and then they pull you out of there, and that would kind of continue the theming of it. Where I'm gonna call a stretch limo, and
super
we
stretch.
don't. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's called the crowd.
Make it a super
Make
stretch.
it a super stretch. And then you get out into the alley, and here comes a super stretch, and maybe everyone that's loading you is themed into like chauffeur type, outfits and costumes, which they're not. And you get on, and maybe where the Steven Tyler countdown is, you get a quick little, we gotta get out of here, blah blah blah, and then
that would make
where we go.
It flow better for sure. Can I? This is a random gripe. I just suddenly occurred to me. Why are all of the taxis? Why are all the super stretch limos gray? If they're all maybe black, I'd be okay. They're limos. They're black. Why are they all gray? If you're gonna go with gray, why not make them different colors?
Yeah, and what could really help that ride? Maybe just popped in my head. If they put, on roller coasters are using the virtual reality goggles now.
Yes.
Maybe you could do that through LA. Sorta, kinda, sorta, like they're doing over in Universal with Fast and the Furious. Is kind of has that thing going on where you're essentially in a big virtual reality tube, but you put the virtual reality screens on because they're not going to do that obviously with the track layout, and it all kind of coincides with. Look, I don't know how they're going to figure out how to make sure how you're going upside down and all that stuff, but they could figure something out, but also lends the idea that going forward they could just get rid of the rock and roll theme, maybe use the virtual reality idea, though I'm not sure that's going well in a lot of the parks. I think there's a lot of issues with bacteria and people putting them on. I think they actually got rid of them in Orlando, SeaWorld Orlando, but I can't remember what ride that was on. I saw
Kraken?
it might have been Kraken, and it was on there for a while. I actually remember seeing a Tim Tracker video where they were doing it, and then he had gone back and it wasn't there anymore, and he wasn't sure why. And he had mentioned that maybe it was because people are putting them on their sweaty faces all day, and it's kind of gross. And
that would feel like overall. I mean, I've seen Six Flags do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And we really don't want to be resorting to Six Flags tactics.
Bold prediction: retheme to Superstar Limo.
Yeah, imagine that. I keep hearing a retheme to Monsters Inc. and I keep trying to like wrap my head. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna retheme that to Monsters Inc., 40-inch height limit's got to be there. I can't. 48's just not. I don't think that's right in the sense of that property being appealing to a lot of younger children.
I think that if you
just gut it, maybe.
I think it would end up being gutted to drop it down.
Which I'm more than happy with if they're gonna something good's gonna come out of that.
A retheme is inevitable. You can only have a roller coaster based around a 1970s rock and roll band for so long operating in a Disney park without it feeling just out of place.
So we're not going to get a 100th anniversary, like Aerosmith's 100th anniversary. In other words, whatever the band was, whenever they claim to have started, we're not going to get like a 2070. Like we're going to celebrate the band and ride the ride.
No, that's definitely coming.
Oh, we're gonna do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll be another tweak.
Goggles.
There'll be a tweak for a 100-year anniversary.
Exactly.
Because Aerosmith, I guess, probably came around in generally the same time as Walt Disney World did in that window. I'm not really quite sure on their dates, but I guess I should, as someone that's grown up in the New England area, right near Massachusetts, should know that kind of thing. But the overall theme here is that one, the band is kind of obsolete. Two, the idea of a ride based on a band is just kind of silly to begin with. Although Aerosmith was putting their name on everything in the 90s. It was an arcade game. I remember playing at Chuck E. Cheese at one point. They're not shy about that. I'm glad I just thought of this. Kiss was approached as well. And I want to say I think Aerosmith was like the third or fourth band in this whole line of, they were not the first choice, and I bring up Kiss because they'll put their name on anything as well. I'm surprised they actually I'm surprised Kiss didn't jump all over this. I guess, Eisner's always budgeting. That's the thing.
Not enough money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this ride was another budget because I think they mentioned it in the video that I'm speaking of is, think about really what it is. You slap a record label, it's G-Force Records, ha ha ha. You put a couple of little things you probably had laying around the studio anyway, a couple of records from old bands, maybe a couple up-to-date rock and roll posters from concerts. You put a steel roller coaster, which is, in essence, is not anything even crazy in there, really, if you think about it, in terms of, if you want to compare it to real thrill rides. And you put it inside a big steel box, you turn the lights off, and you put
a donut, and you put
a
Hollywood
couple of donuts and a couple of Hollywood highway signs, and you got Aerosmith's Rock and Roller Coaster.
Right. If this was an outdoor steel roller coaster at a Six Flags, it would probably be
it exists somewhere.
Fourth or fifth biggest roller
I saw
coaster
a video somewhere where it exists. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't think it's a Six Flags park, but there's a park where it has it, and I'm sure it's not. I'm 99% sure it's not their marquee attraction by any stretch of the imagination. So that is, I get what they were trying to do, and you compare it to Space Mountain, but the thing with Space Mountain is there's an element of what I just said in Space Mountain, but overall, the queue is awesome. The retro feel of it is awesome. The announcement being made as you walk down, Space Mountain is a high, turbulent, blah, 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 is all cool. The whole feel of it's good. It's just they just did it right, and it still feels right.
No, you're absolutely right.
And Aerosmith's not right. But people are gonna get mad at us for saying this, but I feel like you're 100% right on the mark on this.
Yeah, something is always, every ride, every attraction at a Disney park is special to somebody. I personally know someone who is really sad that they took out the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire live, but times change, Disney parks change, and that was the whole point.
Yeah, and
always changing, moving forward.
I'm glad it's changing and moving forward. When you take a ride based around a game show, I mean, well, an attraction based on a game show, which I guess is okay to kill some crowds here and there. And as long as you can get it in and out of there while it's relevant, and then that's the thing here too is the band's not. It's not relevant anymore. It's time to move on. And you're Disney. How many properties have you pushed to the weight that are sitting there waiting for their opportunity to get in these parks? And you got Aerosmith in there.
Right.
I mean, maybe they should have put a Steven Tyler animatronic in the pre-show with maybe the automated big lips and all that cool stuff.
This is how you should think about it. Is there somebody who is going to Hollywood Studios who has no idea what's there?
Yeah.
That opens up the map and says, "Oh my God, Aerosmith!
Yeah.
I'm down!" and rushes over to hit that? No one. I mean, maybe there's 5 people, but besides the Aerosmith superfans out there, there's no one who is suddenly learning that there's an Aerosmith attraction at Disney Hollywood Studios, and that's changing their.
They literally booked their vacation because they're like, "Oh, if Aerosmith's there, I don't even care about anything else. I just gotta go there." You see Pandora, maybe that sways you. You see Star Wars, that's gonna sway you. I'm not saying it has to hold that kind of stature, but it's not drawing people in. Now, my wife will disagree. She enjoys the ride. Another friend of mine disagree because she's a big Aerosmith fan and she enjoys the ride. But if you put another property in there and the ride's got the general thrill element to it to some degree, it's gonna do well. So why not get it to where it needs to be and fit the proper theming? So we're running low on time and we're gonna wrap up, but we want to present this question and hopefully you guys respond in the comments below or hit us up on Twitter. My handle is at the backside of W1 and Dan's handle is...
You can find me at Ozzy the Mandias. That's OZY the Man, DIAS.
And the question we're going to pose this week is, do you agree with Dan's take? Is Aerosmith overrated? Is it underrated? Or is it where it needs to be? I'm sure a lot of you disagree because it's generally a popular ride. So interested to hear what you have to say about that. As far as the channel goes, we're going to be doing a couple of things. I am going to go check out... I'm sure we're both going to go check out, actually, the Dumbo movie sometime this weekend. And we'll either get back to you on our thoughts on that on next week's podcast or maybe do a bonus show, depending on scheduling conflicts and all that stuff. Dan is very excited about Dumbo.
I'm looking forward to it. It's probably my favorite live-action Disney adaptation that they've done yet.
I am... in the middle somewhere, so we'll see. We'll see how Tim Burton does it. I hope he doesn't go too crazy. I mean, Johnny Depp's not playing the elephant, so that's a plus because it's Tim Burton. I don't know how he keeps Johnny Depp out of a movie.
Tim Burton is going to do an interesting job here because there's no Johnny Depp. There's he's broken up with Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, so
and Snape has died. So
But he did bring back Michael Keaton because he was his Batman. The original early '90s Batmans, but. I like Michael Keaton, so I should say late 80s Batman. Really nice, the second one. But it will be interesting. And we'll see if we'll do a little review episode on that. I'm also going to, we're going to be looking to start a series called Renaissance Reviews. We're going to do that on the YouTube channel, QuickDisTakes. So check that out. Please come by and just check out all our videos and content on QuickDisTakes. Subscribe. Feedback would be much appreciated. We have also going to be looking into doing a weekly panel show, with different people in and out, talking about Disney movies. We might actually, just pick a movie for the week and go over that specific movie, whether it's old or new or, relative or just...
Sounds like a really fun show, Tim.
Yeah, so something to do to discuss these movies a little further in depth and people that... these movies are just timeless and never get old. So, with that said, we're going to have Dan sign you off.
And this is Tim and Dan from QuickDisTakes, and we hope you have a magic rest of your week.